welcome back again to the Imaginary Gallery. We are actually on the third installment of this particular chapter in the book we all know the name of. I realized after creating the last two videos that I didn't follow through, like it dropped off. So figured I would continue with this one about the abusive or violent person. After she gives them stories, which I related one of those stories in the last video, but this is after the stories, Sandra Brown says, well, she actually gives you a red alert behavioral checklist for the abusive or violent person. She says these are examples of what this person would do. Talks down to you, criticizes you, calls you names, or otherwise uses belittling language against you, refers to his or her previous partners in negative and demeaning ways. Oh, she lied and she cheated. Oh, she tried to steal from me. Tries to dictate your spiritual or religious beliefs. Is frequently irritable. Raises his or her voice, yells or screams, even when carrying on a normal conversation. Yells and screams and seems too worked up when he or she gets into an argument with you or others. Has a history of assaults against other people. Has harmed animals or treated them cruelly. Has set destructive fires. Punches walls or throws things when angry. Seems to experience anger as his or her most frequent emotion. Blames you or others for his or her anger or outbursts. It's your fault I threw a fit like that because you did la la la. Okay. Has trouble in other relationships because of the anger. Has previously been sent to anger management training. Has previously been sent to substance abuse treatment. Has been expelled or suspended from school or work for anger or fighting. And hangs around other people known to be violent. Has a short fuse or a hot temper. Gets angry when confronted, questioned, or corrected. We've covered that one a million. Is preoccupied with violent movies, TV, or video games. Idealizes acts of violence and destruction. And the last is uses words such as killed, smashed, and kicked in everyday language. Now we get to the next section, which is the one I foolishly left off. Your defense strategy. People end up in long-term violent relationships because they don't leave early. They ignore the warning signs and red flags that pop up early in the relationship, when fleeing is a lot easier and safer. They excuse the behavior, think it's an isolated event, or believe the phony reasons for it, such as, I only screamed because you did this to make me upset, or They ignore clues and wait for confirmed evidence. In the case of abusive or violent partners, confirmed evidence is quite painful. It is safer to move on a clue than to wait for its confirmation. Since violence is progressive, it will increase. Like I say in some of my videos, it only gets worse. People have the best chances of escape when they leave early in the relationship following the first episode of violence or inappropriate behavior, and do not go back. It is a lot easier to fade out at the dating relationship early in the picture than it is to break up after 3 years of serious fake commitment. When a violent person is likely to stalk you, I'm not Sandra, but let Sandra repeat, an early exit can save your psychological well-being and quite possibly your life. Abusive and violent people are known for their theatrical displays of remorse and soul-searching. They swear on their mother's lives. They will never do it again. We'll go to church or counseling. They offer lots of seemingly insightful reasons for why their short fuse went off. There are always reasons why, including, of course, sad childhood stories. However, once you are reunited, the offer to go to counseling isn't followed up with any action. A partner has the most influence over their partner's willingness to get help and remain in help when the person's out of the home and the relationship. This seems like an oxymoron. But once you've reunited and are dating, living together, or back in the home, the evil partner's inspiration and motivation for seeking help are eliminated. It has back what it wanted to get back. As it sees it, it really isn't the problem anyway, so there isn't any reason to continue in counseling. Violent people rarely change on their own volition outside of intense counseling. And if they have a pathological disorder, there is almost no chance for change at all. Staying out of the relationship, and that means not even going on dates, and requesting that it go to counseling for itself, not couples counseling, for 6 months is a sure way of finding out just how interested it is in having a relationship that is based on emotional maturity and health. Targets who have followed this simple approach have found the answer they were seeking. Sandra says she can only count on one hand how many times these evil partners have actually followed through on this. The others were much more inclined to ditch the relationship than they were to work on themselves. This in itself will tell you something about whether the partner is healthy and normal. Violent people never want counseling, and if they start it, they don't stay in it. Although this may be painful information to get, it is better that you know the true nature now, rather than later, when this evil person's hands are around your throat. As they do with other pathological people, many partners believe that they can change their abusive person or can provide a stress-free environment in which it won't have to get violent. But these things don't change it. The partners who are on the local news as victims of domestic violence are the people who failed to believe this. Be on the alert for other disorders that can go hand in hand with violence, including bipolar disorder and disorders, addictions, post-traumatic stress disorder, borderline personality disorder, and antisocial personality disorder. These conditions complicate an already serious problem of violence. Add a pathological or chronic disorder to a pattern of abuse or violence, and you have a situation that will most likely only change for the worse. We can take protective steps to find out about any person we're considering dating. Many services are available to let us know if your new thing has ever crossed the line in ways that could endanger you. Background checks can unearth lots of information from public records about where it has been and with whom. A background check can reveal criminal records, civil proceedings, family court proceedings, traffic violations, money scams, liens, bankruptcies, protective orders taken out against it, sexual offender status, stalking violations, rapes, assaults, probation or parole violations, and more. Why in the world would you not want this information? Some information can be obtained through your local courthouse. Various websites will produce detailed background checks for a small fee. You can check your state's Department of Corrections website. Private investigators can be hired online. And I'm up for hire? I'll catch him. I'll catch her. There is virtually no reason not to have a lot of information on a person whom you are considering dating or marrying. Check the back of this book for some resources that you can use right now. Okay, since this is the third installment in this particular subject, but world, I think, okay, so Sandra Brown is suggesting that you take your big old stack of paperwork, of court dates and all the stuff she mentioned, and go knock on the door of his new partner's home and say, "Hi, I am his ex. I want you to see this. Oh, look, he was arrested here. Oh, you know what? I don't advise any of this because you know what's already happened." The narcopathic abusive monster has already gotten to the new one to paint a picture of you as the most obsessive, stalking, crazy ex. And he or she had to leave you because of such a thing. So if you show up at that person's door with your paperwork, which, according to the new partner, could come from anywhere. It could have been something you typed up and put somebody else's name on, but I just don't advise this kind of stuff. Okay, I would advise keeping the information if you have it, and then maybe if the new partner discovers there's something fishy and then reaches out to you, well then, yes, by all means, give out the information and say, well, I wasn't going to say anything. The other reason is this. Because if you escape from an abusive or assault or whatever, a horrible situation, and you can see the perpetrator with a brand new person, and you can see the smile on its face just like yours was in the beginning, before you knew it was the demon, well, if you were to go up to them, excuse me, you don't want to date him. He's evil. He's sick. Well, guess what? You are playing the role he's designed for you, or she, because you're already painted as the crazy, paranoid ex. So if you do that, you are just like being baited right into the trap. So the better advice is to just stand back, and if somebody reaches out to you, well, then you're all full of information. But if you actually pursue his or her new target, it probably won't work, even if you have valid, accurate information, because the other one's brain washed him or her and will say, oh, crazy, that person probably made up those documents. They're not real. It needs help. And it'll say that stuff, and you'll be fitting right into that role. So don't do it. And on her defense strategy, she reminds us that we end up in these violent relationships because we just don't leave early. And yes, I've been there where I've ignored the warning signs. There were plenty. And again, the reason why I laughed the first time was because I saw red flags. And what did I do with those red flags? I compartmentalized them away to think, well, that's just a small little thing. And I'd look at something that was good, thinking, well, what about this and this and this? And we can gaslight ourselves, so be careful. But yes, it's very common for us to ignore warning signs, because another thing is we think, well, that was a blatant warning sign, but wait a second, this is a brand new person. Maybe this person deals with things in that way and doesn't know. Okay. And then we pursue, and we should have stuck with our initial idea, but it's too late. But yes, and she says that we ignore clues and then wait for confirmed evidence. But she's telling us that's not a good idea because it may be very painful, which I agree. Like if you find out it's some kind of criminal that's doing all kinds of stuff and you've taken up shack with it, and then it's hauled away to wherever, then you're stuck there and looked at by the police or whoever. Anyway, and yes, the other part I really agree with here is since violence is progressive, it will increase. So if you're having your normal, regular dates and then one particular night it reaches its hand up and slaps you across the face ever so gently, you may be shocked, like, ugh, what was that? Oh, I was just playing. Well, it's probably like a precursor to a fist smash in your jaw or down the road. And Sandra says you have the best chance of leaving when you do so early. And she says after the first episode, which I've read elsewhere, but then I thought it was sweet and funny how she says that these abusive and violent people, they're known for their theatrical displays of remorse and soul search. The story here is, with this theatrical display, they only do that if you are slipping away from them before they are ready for you to slip away. Because when they meet you, they know it's on a very limited timetable. They know that it's only a matter of time before you find enough clues to realize you're dealing with a demonic, evil monster reptilian shapeshifter. So they're like throwing all they can in for the moment, and they do all their love bombing crap and give you all these flowers and gifts. So if they have not yet reached whatever private goal they have as far as you're concerned, which could be draining your bank account or stealing something you own that's hidden in the house that it knows about that you didn't know it knew, or whatever. They will then give their phony displays that she mentions in the book, swearing, I swear, I'll never, ever do it again. And it's just phony because many of us will be thinking, but wait a second, why would you have ever done it anyway? Oh, and then you'll get some excuse. Oh, because of you saying this to me? Oh, I lost my mind. Fake. And then she says they'll offer lots of seemingly insightful reasons. Well, I think the reason I did it is because when I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to join the band class, and I wanted to, so maybe I'd... Fake, fake, fake! And then it is funny how she talks about the counseling and how they'll be telling you, oh, once I go to counseling, I'll get better. You'll see. And then when you're like back in the house or whatever together, that idea is gone, and I agree with that one because it's like a method or a tactic these types of people will use because the person knows you know there's something wrong, and you're like giving a solution for it, and they're thinking, counseling, that's the answer. Oh, you're right, I need counseling. Can I come back and I miss you? So you're supposed to think, really? Counseling? Oh, okay. Oh, sure. And it's a scam. Oh, my God. But I agree with the fact that, like, if you express to the partner who's violent something like, I have this new program I think will work to help us with this and that, if it still needs you for something, if it still has uses for you, it may say, oh, yes, I'd love to know that. But if it doesn't have any uses for you, it's probably going to be out the door before you know it. It doesn't want any help. It doesn't need any help, especially from you, the target, which, of course, it never identified you as. But that's what it sees you as. But, oh, I can think of all the times I thought if I just show the right information, then everything will... Oh. So I'm guilty of this, Sandra. How dare you know? And then the part at the end about taking the proactive steps, background checks. I've done that, and in fact, a few I've done it to acted like it was weird. And it's like, sorry, it's not weird at all. In this day and age with all these weirdos out there, it's probably should be required to do background checks before going on date one because of so many monsters like you, which turned out to be the case. And yes, the background check, let's just say you do a background check and then you see the traffic violations, the family court this, the money scams, all the stuff she mentioned. If you're dealing with a cluster B monster, more than likely there will be a phony, of course, explanation or excuse for every single thing on that list. And I can just fake one based on what I've seen and heard. What do you mean? You saw my criminal record? Oh, that's a mistake. Family court, it's her fault. She flattened my tires so I couldn't go to court. Oh, I'm not a sexual offender. She made that up. She told the police that. You're going to believe that? You're sick. You don't love me. Bankruptcy? Well, I had to file because she took all my money for the kids. I didn't have a choice. Plus, I bought her this and I bought her that. Don't punish me for helping another person, but it didn't do any good for me. Rape? Oh, she lied. She made that up. She just wanted to get a better grade. I was her teacher and she told that was a lie. Assaults? Oh, I didn't do a thing. All I did was trip the person. It's not my fault he or she fell down the steps and broke its leg. I just walked by slightly. I did not stalk her. Yes, I did drive by her house at midnight. I did park outside, but that was only because I was driving in the neighborhood and tired. She thinks that everything's about her. I was just driving by the neighborhood and happened to get tired right there. Well, if I got out of the car and went to her door, I must have been sleepwalking. I don't know about that. Anyway, that's all we have for this. So look for the resources she mentions and stay strong.
Well, I just may be this world's first
transgender lesbian reptilian shapeshifter combo.
I'm a reptilian shapeshifter transgendered lesbian. Top that. Think you can?
Hi. I am the narcopath. And you ain't. Get over it. I must increase my bust. Till it comes out enough. So many celebrities that I thought were deceased are actually alive and well. And perverted as hell.